The morning sun cast long shadows across the Nevada desert as Captain James Walker adjusted his uniform collar. The weapons demonstration was supposed to be routine, just another day showing off Earth's military capabilities to foreign dignitaries. Except today's guests weren't from any nation on Earth. The silvery disk of the alien ship hung in the air above the test range, its smooth surface reflecting the morning light. Walker watched as three tall, blue-skinned figures descended on a beam of light. Their movements were graceful, almost floating, as they touched the ground. "Welcome to Earth," Walker said, stepping forward with his hand extended. "I'm Captain James Walker, United Earth Defense Force." The tallest alien looked at his hand with what seemed like amusement. "I am High Council Member Atrix," it said in perfect English, thanks to their translation devices. "These are my colleagues, Observers Rex and Pax. We are here to evaluate your species for potential membership in the Galactic Council." Walker nodded, lowering his unshaken hand. Behind him, rows of Earth's finest weapons stood ready for demonstration. Everything from standard rifles to the latest prototype railguns. "Please," Walker gestured toward the firing range, "allow us to demonstrate our defensive capabilities." Atrix made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Ah yes, your weapons. We have reviewed your preliminary data. You still use chemical propulsion. Projectiles." "How? Quaint." Walker kept his face neutral, though he felt his jaw tighten. "We find them quite effective." The demonstration began with standard firearms. The crack of rifles echoed across the desert as expert marksmen hit target after target. Walker's team demonstrated everything from close-quarter combat techniques to long-range precision shooting. The council members watched with expressions that grew increasingly amused. When the demonstration finished, Atrix raised what passed for an eyebrow. "Is this all? Where are your energy weapons? Your plasma cannons?" "We've experimented with directed energy weapons," Walker explained, "but we find our current arsenal meets our needs effectively." Rex, the shorter alien, stepped forward and pulled out a device no larger than a human hand. Perhaps a comparison is in order. Without waiting for permission, he aimed at a target downrange and pressed something. A beam of brilliant blue light shot out, vaporizing the target and leaving a glowing crater in the hillside behind it. "Now that," Pax said, "is a proper weapon. Clean, efficient, and civilized." Walker studied the damage. "Impressive," he admitted, "though I noticed the beam took nearly half a second to reach its target. Our bullets travel at—" "Please," Atrix interrupted, waving a long-fingered hand. "Let's not embarrass ourselves with mathematics. The fact is, Captain, if your species wishes to join the Galactic Council, you'll need to advance. These primitive weapons of yours, they have no place in modern galactic society." One of Walker's surgeons, a veteran named Miller, shifted uncomfortably behind him. Walker could sense the entire human delegation bristling at the alien's condescension. "With all due respect," Walker said carefully, "our weapons have served us well in defending our world." "Against other humans, perhaps," Atrix said. "But there are threats in this galaxy you cannot imagine. Creatures that would view your little projectile weapons as nothing more than amusing toys." Walker watched as the aliens demonstrated more of their energy weapons. Each shot was more impressive than the last. Beams that could bend around corners, fields that could disintegrate matter, rays that could pass through solid objects. It was incredible technology, he had to admit. But something bothered him about their demonstrations. Each weapon had a slight delay. Each required complex targeting systems, and each, he noticed, made the air shimmer with waste heat. As the morning wore on, the aliens' condescension grew. They spoke of uplifting humanity, of proper weapons training, of bringing Earth's military into the modern age. Walker listened, smiled politely, and kept his thoughts to himself. At the end of the demonstration, Atrix approached him with what seemed to be an attempt at a sympathetic expression. "Don't worry, Captain. Once you join the Council, we'll help you replace all these outdated weapons. In time, You'll wonder how you ever relied on such primitive tools." Walker nodded, watching as the aliens ascended back to their ship. But as they disappeared into the silver disk, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. Humanity hadn't survived and thrived for thousands of years by accident. There was wisdom in simplicity, in reliability, in proven methods. As the ship disappeared into the clear blue sky, Walker turned to Sergeant Miller. "Document everything," he said quietly. "And don't start decommissioning anything yet. Something tells me we might need these primitive weapons of ours sooner than they think." 6 months after first contact, the Earth's military headquarters looked very different. Sleek metal panels covered the old concrete walls, and strange humming devices replaced familiar computers. Captain Walker walked through the transformed corridors, passing aliens and humans working side by side. At least, that's what it looked like on the surface. Walker entered the main conference room where Council Representative Marcus waited. The tall alien stood by the window, his metallic suit reflecting the morning light. Unlike the first contact team, Marcus had chosen to show his face, blue-skinned with large, dark eyes that seemed to judge everything they saw. "Ah, Captain Walker," Marcus said, his translator making his voice sound almost musical. "I trust the transition is proceeding well." Walker nodded, placing his tablet on the table. "Most of our forces have begun training with the new energy weapons." He didn't mention the traditional armories that remained untouched, hidden in underground bunkers around the world. Marcus picked up one of the new Council-approved weapons from a display case. "Excellent. Soon your people will wonder how they ever relied on such crude projectile weapons." He pointed the weapon at a practice target on the wall. "Pure energy. Clean. Efficient. Perfect." "Perfect for some situations," Walker said carefully. "Though I still believe there's value in maintaining diverse capabilities." Marcus made the whistling sound that Walker had learned meant disapproval. "Captain, you must understand. The Council has spent thousands of years perfecting these weapons. All member species use them. Standardization is key to our unified defense strategy." Before Walker could respond, Lieutenant Brown rushed into the room. "Sir, we've received reports from the training grounds. There's been an incident." At the training facility, a group of frustrated soldiers stood around a collection of scorched targets. Master Sergeant Adams, one of Earth's best marksmen, looked like he wanted to throw his new energy rifle on the ground. "Show me," Walker said. Adams picked up the energy weapon. "Watch this, sir." He aimed at a target, fired, and hit it dead center. "Looks good, right? Now watch what happens when the target is moving." A drone zipped across the field, weaving back and forth. Adams fired repeatedly, but the energy beams moved so slowly compared to traditional bullets that the drone easily avoided them. In real combat conditions, Adams explained, anything that's moving faster than a walking pace is almost impossible to hit. These weapons might be powerful, but they're not practical. Marcus, who had followed them to the range, stepped forward. "You simply need more training. Your soldiers are too used to compensating for bullet drop and wind. Energy weapons require a different mindset." Walker watched as more soldiers demonstrated the problems they'd encountered. The energy weapons, while devastating against stationary targets, proved difficult to use in realistic combat scenarios. They also had an obvious firing signature that made it impossible to hide your position, and their power cells didn't last nearly as long as promised. Later that day, in his private office, Walker reviewed the classified reports from other military bases around the world. Everyone was experiencing similar issues, but the Council representatives dismissed every concern. His computer beeped, a secure message from Admiral Thompson. "Keep playing along. Underground facilities at Site B now at 85% capacity. Old production lines maintained. Just in case." Walker smiled slightly. Humanity had learned the hard way that it was better to have weapons and not need them than need them and not have them. While they appeared to embrace the Council's technology completely, Earth's military leaders had quietly ensured their traditional weapons capabilities remained intact. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Marcus. "Captain, the Council has reviewed your latest progress reports," the alien said. "While your troops are adapting more slowly than expected, we believe they will eventually understand the superiority of our weapons. We've decided to accelerate the decommissioning of your remaining projectile weapons." Walker kept his face carefully neutral. "Of course. I'll inform the relevant commands." After Marcus left, Walker sent a coded message to Admiral Thompson. "Double production. They're getting nervous." As he looked out his office window at the setting sun, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that humanity would need their primitive weapons sooner rather than later. The Council's insistence on removing all projectile weapons seemed less like modernization and more like leaving Earth defenseless. But they'd learn soon enough. Humanity hadn't survived this long by putting all their eggs in one basket. The emergency alarm woke Walker at 3 a.m. Red lights flashed through the headquarters as he rushed to the command center, still buttoning his uniform. Inside, the massive view screen showed a horrifying sight. 3 Council worlds were under attack. "Report," Walker demanded, joining Admiral Thompson at the central table. "They're calling themselves the Swarm," Thompson said, pointing to the black ships swarming across the screen. "They appeared out of nowhere 2 hours ago. The Council's defense fleets are engaging them now." Marcus burst into the room, his usual calm completely gone. "Are you monitoring the situation, Captain?" His translator couldn't hide the panic in his voice. "Yes. How are the Council's weapons performing?" Marcus touched a control panel, and new footage appeared. Council ships fired their energy weapons at the swarm vessels, but something strange happened. A shimmer appeared around each enemy ship, and the energy beams simply disappeared. "Impossible," Marcus whispered. "They're adapting to our weapons." Walker leaned forward, studying the footage carefully. "Those are shields, aren't they? They're absorbing the energy from your weapons and using it to power their defenses." "Nothing like this has happened in 10,000 years of Council history," Marcus said. "Our weapons are perfect. They should work." The next few hours brought worse news. The Swarm's ships landed on the Council worlds, deploying ground forces. The alien invaders looked like giant insects, covered in black armor that showed the same shimmer as their ships. Every energy weapon blast just made their shields stronger. 5,000 Council troops lost, Marcus reported, his voice hollow. "No enemy casualties. They're unstoppable." Walker watched another energy beam get absorbed by the Swarm's shields. Something had been bothering him since the first footage. Has anyone tried using non-energy weapons against them? Marcus turned to him sharply. "Captain, this is hardly the time to promote your obsolete technology." "Look at the footage," Walker insisted. "Their shields are designed to absorb energy, but what about physical impacts? Has anyone tried?" "That's ridiculous," Marcus started, but Admiral Thompson cut him off. "Actually," Thompson said, "we might want to test that theory." He pressed a button on his comm unit. "Get me the hidden testing facility." Marcus's eyes widened. Hidden facility? What hidden facility? An hour later, they watched new footage from a secret testing range. A captured swarm drone sat in the center of the field, its shields humming with absorbed energy from previous weapon tests. A soldier raised an old M24 sniper rifle and fired. The bullet went straight through the shield and destroyed the drone. "How?" Marcus demanded. "That's just a simple projectile." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Sometimes the simple solution is the best one." Their shields are tuned to stop energy weapons because that's all they've encountered. They never adapted to stop physical projectiles. Before Marcus could respond, more alerts flashed across the screen. The Swarm had taken 2 more Council worlds. Their advance was heading toward Earth's sector. "Captain Walker," Marcus said, his voice different now. "How many of your traditional weapons did you keep?" "All of them," Walker replied. "And we never stopped production. Every bunker, every arsenal, every production line is still running at full capacity." For once, Marcus didn't look disapproving. If anything, he looked relieved. The Council will want to know about this immediately. Walker nodded to Thompson, who brought up the secret inventory lists. Earth had enough traditional weapons and ammunition to arm half the galaxy. They had maintained everything from pistols to heavy artillery, all hidden away while pretending to embrace the Council's energy weapons completely. "We'll need to train your troops to use them," Walker said. "Projectile weapons have recoil, bullet drop, and other factors your people aren't used to dealing with." "There's no time," Marcus protested. "The swarm will reach Council Prime within days." "Then we better start now," Walker said firmly. "Unless you have a better idea for stopping an enemy that's immune to your perfect weapons." Marcus looked at the screen, where more Council worlds were going dark under the swarm's advance. Finally, he nodded. "I will inform the Council that we require Earth's assistance." As Marcus left to make his report, Walker turned to Thompson. "Get all our hidden facilities running at maximum capacity, and contact every Earth military base. We're going to need every instructor we've got." The time had come for humanity to show the galaxy why they had never given up their primitive weapons. The real question was, would they be ready in time? The Council's emergency meeting chamber was packed with representatives from 30 different species. Walker stood at the center, surrounded by giant holographic displays showing the swarm's unstoppable advance. In just 1 week, they had taken 12 Council worlds. "This is Earth's Captain Walker," Marcus announced to the assembly. "He has a proposal for defeating the swarm." Walker gestured to the screen behind him, showing footage from Earth's weapon tests. The swarm's shields are designed to absorb energy, but they can't stop physical projectiles. Our ballistic weapons pass straight through their defenses. Murmurs filled the chamber. A tall, crystal-like alien stepped forward. "You expect us to believe that primitive chemical propulsion weapons can succeed where our advanced technology has failed?" "I don't expect you to believe it," Walker replied. "I can show you." He nodded to Thompson, who started a new video. The footage showed a human military unit engaging a captured swarm fighter. Energy weapons bounced harmlessly off its shields. Then a soldier with an old M4 rifle stepped up. 3 shots later, the fighter lay broken on the ground. The chamber erupted in chaos. "Impossible. It must be fake. We cannot resort to such primitive methods." Marcus raised his hands for silence. "The footage is real. I witnessed the tests myself. Earth's weapons work." He paused, his next words clearly difficult for him. "We were wrong about their effectiveness." Walker took over. "Earth can supply weapons and train your forces, but we need to act fast. The swarm is already heading for the core worlds." A new alert flashed across the screens. The swarm had just appeared at the edge of Earth's sector. "They're ahead of schedule," Thompson reported grimly. 3 days until they reach Earth. The Council leader, an ancient being covered in luminescent patterns, spoke for the first time. "How quickly can you prepare a defense?" "We've been preparing since first contact," Walker revealed. "Our factories never stopped production. We have enough weapons stockpiled to arm a significant force, and we've already started training programs for Council troops." More murmurs, but this time of surprise and hope rather than dismissal. "Show us," the Council leader commanded. The scene shifted to Earth's largest military training facility in the Nevada desert. Thousands of Council troops struggled with human weapons, learning to handle recoil and adjust for bullet drop. Human instructors moved among them, correcting grips and stances. "It's not perfect," Walker admitted. "Your people are used to energy weapons that have no recoil and travel in straight lines. But they're learning quickly." A new alert interrupted him. The swarm had accelerated. They would reach Earth in 2 days. "Not enough time," Marcus said quietly. "They're not ready." Walker turned to the Council. "Then we fight with what we have. Earth's forces are combat ready, and we have enough trained Council troops to form a defensive line. We make our stand at Earth." "Earth," the crystal alien scoffed. "Why should we risk everything to defend your world?" Because we're the only ones with weapons that can hurt them, Thompson answered. If Earth falls, you lose your only effective defense against the swarm. The council chamber grew quiet as this truth sank in. Finally, the council leader spoke again. How many ships do you need? Within hours, the largest fleet in council history assembled in Earth's orbit. Council ships carried human soldiers and their primitive weapons to defensive positions. On the ground, Walker oversaw the distribution of rifles, machine guns, and artillery to the best-trained council troops. In his command center, Walker studied the deployment maps. Earth's weapons were effective, but they had limitations. You had to get closer to the enemy than with energy weapons. Ammunition was finite. Each shot had to count. Status report, he called out. Defensive lines established on all continents. Thompson replied. Artillery in position. Air forces ready. Council ships in orbital formation. He paused. The swarm just accelerated again. They'll be here in 18 hours. Walker looked at the worried faces around him, both human and alien. Then we have 18 hours to prepare for the fight of our lives. He turned to Marcus. Still think our weapons are charming antiques? Marcus picked up a human rifle, checking it the way he'd been taught. No, Captain. Now I think they're our last hope. The first wave of swarm ships darkened Earth's sky like angry storm clouds. Walker stood in the command center, watching as the enemy approached. The room was eerily quiet except for the steady beep of radar signals. All units, report in, Walker commanded. European defense line ready. Asian command, in position. American Continental Forces, standing by. African Battle Group, ready to engage. Australian Defense Force, waiting for orders. Marcus stood beside Walker, gripping his rifle. Like many council aliens, he had spent the last 16 hours learning to use human weapons. Now he would fight alongside them. First contact in 3 minutes, Thompson announced. The Admiral's voice was steady, but his knuckles were white on the command console. Walker keyed the global command channel. Remember your training. Let them get close. Wait for my signal. He turned to the tactical display, showing the first swarm dropships descending through the atmosphere. Steady. The enemy ships grew larger on the screen. Steady. The first wave dropped below the cloud cover. Now, all artillery units, fire. The ground shook as hundreds of heavy guns roared to life. Shell after shell streaked into the sky, something the swarm had never faced before. Their energy shields, designed to stop lasers and plasma, did nothing against the storm of steel and explosives. Dropships began falling from the sky, their shields useless against physical bombardment. But more kept coming. Ground forces, engage as they land. Walker ordered. Remember your zones of fire. Around the world, human and alien soldiers opened fire with everything from rifles to machine guns. The sound of gunfire replaced the usual whine of energy weapons. The swarm troops, expecting to face ineffective energy beams, charged straight into walls of bullets. Eastern Europe reporting success. Pacific defense holding strong. African line pushing them back. Walker allowed himself a small smile. It was working. The swarm's greatest advantage, their energy-absorbing shields, was useless against kinetic weapons. Sir, Thompson called out. Look at this. The main screen showed a council soldier, one of Marcus's people, manning a heavy machine gun. His 4 arms allowed him to control the weapon with incredible precision, laying down devastating fire that cut through swarm troops like a scythe. They're adapting to our weapons better than expected, Walker noted. Each species is finding their own advantages. More reports flooded in. The crystalline aliens, who could see in multiple directions at once, made excellent snipers. The massive gravity worlders could handle the heaviest weapons without difficulty. Even the floating gas beings proved deadly, able to operate artillery pieces with their fine control of atmospheric pressure. But the swarm wasn't finished. A new wave of ships descended, bigger than before. Multiple Queen ships detected, Thompson warned. They're adapting their tactics. The swarm forces began using debris and terrain as cover, learning from their losses. They were intelligent enemies, and they weren't going to fall forever for the same tricks. Walker keyed his command line. All units switched to Phase 2. Mobile warfare doctrine is now in effect. Around the world, defensive lines transformed into mobile combat units. Just as Walker had planned, human forces taught their alien allies the art of maneuver warfare. Tanks and armored vehicles, previously dismissed as primitive by the Council, now proved their worth. They could move, shoot, and relocate before the swarm could adapt. "Sir," Marcus said, pointing to a new tactical display, "the swarm is pulling back in multiple sectors. They're retreating." "Not retreating," Walker corrected. "Regrouping. They'll be back with new tactics." He turned to the command staff. "But now, they know we can hurt them. And more importantly, they know we can teach others to hurt them too." Reports continued flowing in from around the world. Human casualties were significant, but the swarm had lost far more. For the first time since they appeared, the enemy had been stopped. Thompson approached with a secure comm unit. "Sir, the Council leaders are calling. They want to know how soon we can begin full-scale weapons production for all member worlds." Walker looked at the battlefield displays, where human and alien forces fought side by side. Primitive projectile weapons proving their worth against an advanced enemy. "Tell them production begins immediately, and inform them that we're going to need a lot more shooting ranges for training." The battle for Earth wasn't over, but humanity had proven something important. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. 1 month after the Battle of Earth, the underground weapon factory buzzed with activity. Walker watched as assembly lines staffed by humans and aliens worked together, producing rifles, machine guns, and artillery pieces at record speed. "Production is up 300% since we added Council technology to our manufacturing," Thompson reported, showing Walker the latest numbers. "Turns out their primitive assembly lines work even better with some alien upgrades." The biggest change was in Testing Bay 4, where engineer Lisa West led a team of human and alien scientists. They had spent weeks combining human weapon designs with Council technology. "Captain, you need to see this," West called out, waving Walker over. On her workbench sat what looked like a standard human rifle, but with strange alien metals worked into its frame. "The new hybrid design," she explained. "Council metals make it lighter but stronger. We've added their targeting systems, but kept the basic gunpowder action. Best of both worlds." Walker picked up the weapon. It felt perfectly balanced. "How's it perform?" West grinned and pointed to a test target. "See for yourself." Walker aimed and fired. The rifle kicked like a normal gun, but the bullet's impact was extraordinary. The test target, designed to simulate swarm armor, shattered completely. "Council metals in the bullets too," West explained. "Hits harder than anything we've made before." Marcus burst into the testing bay, his usual calm excitement replaced by genuine enthusiasm. "Captain, the reports from the front. You need to see this." In the command center, the tactical displays told the story. All across the galaxy, combined human Council forces were pushing the swarm back. The enemy's advantage was gone. "Look at this footage," Marcus said, pulling up a battle recording. The video showed a Council battleship, but unlike before, it bristled with what looked like giant space artillery. As they watched, the ship engaged a swarm vessel. Instead of energy beams, it fired massive kinetic rounds that tore through the enemy's shields like they weren't even there. "Every Council ship is being retrofitted," Marcus explained. "Energy weapons for precision work, human-style guns for anti-swarm combat." Thompson brought up more battle reports. "The swarm is falling back on all fronts. They've lost 18 worlds in the last week alone. Our new weapons are..." An alert cut him off. The swarm had launched a massive counterattack in the Orion sector. "They're not done yet," Walker warned. "Put it on the main screen." The display showed the largest concentration of swarm ships they'd seen yet, but something was different. "They're using physical armor now," West observed, "trying to adapt to our weapons." Walker studied the footage carefully. "Yes, but they're slower because of it, and their ships can't carry as many troops under all that weight." He turned to Marcus. "Time to show them our latest surprise." Marcus nodded eagerly. "The Council has approved Operation Thunderbolt." Walker keyed the command channel. "All forces, initiate Operation Thunderbolt. Hybrid weapons free." Around the galaxy, human and Council forces unveiled their newest weapons. Gunships armed with both energy cannons and ballistic weapons opened fire. Special Forces teams deployed with West's new hybrid rifles. Artillery pieces enhanced with Council technology launched shells that could punch through any armor the swarm had developed. "They're breaking," Thompson announced. "Swarm forces are retreating across the sector." Walker watched as the enemy fled. The swarm had finally met something they couldn't adapt to: the combined ingenuity of humanity and the Council. "Sir," West called out, "all production facilities report ready for full-scale deployment of hybrid weapons. The Council worlds are already sending raw materials." Marcus stepped up beside Walker, holding one of the new hybrid rifles. "The Council was wrong about human weapons," he admitted. "We thought advancing technology meant abandoning the old ways. Instead, it meant making them better." Walker nodded. "The best progress comes from building on what works, not throwing it away." He turned to the tactical display, where human and Council forces continued pushing the swarm back. "And right now, what works is working very well indeed." As if to emphasize his point, another swarm fleet turned and fled from the combined human-Council assault. The great push was succeeding beyond their highest hopes. But in a quiet corner of his mind, Walker knew the swarm wouldn't give up easily. They would have one more card to play. And when they did, humanity and the Council would need to be ready. The massive holographic display in Earth's command center showed the location of the last swarm stronghold, a huge space station orbiting a dying star. After 6 months of fighting, the enemy had been pushed back to their final fortress. "This is it," Walker said, addressing the combined human-Council fleet commanders. "Their last queen ships are inside that station. Intelligence suggests they're preparing something big." The station looked like a massive black spider web stretching over 1,000 kilometers. Energy readings were off the charts. "All forces report ready," Thompson announced. "Largest combined fleet in galactic history. 5,000 ships, all equipped with hybrid weapons." Marcus, now wearing a modified human combat uniform adapted for his species, pointed to strange energy patterns around the station. "They've developed new shields, denser than anything we've seen before." As if on cue, the station's outer ring began to glow. Massive energy beams shot out, more powerful than any they'd faced before. "They'd been storing power," West said, checking her readings. "Using all the energy they absorbed from Council weapons over the past months. They've built some kind of super weapon." Walker studied the tactical display. The swarm had learned from their defeats. The station was protected by layers of physical armor and energy shields. They'd adapted to both human and Council weapons. But so had the Alliance. "All ships, Battle Formation Delta," Walker commanded. "Begin Operation Final Thunder." The combined fleet split into 3 groups. Council ships with their energy weapons formed the outer ring. Human vessels with their ballistic weapons formed the middle layer. And in the center, the new hybrid warships, products of both civilizations' technology, prepared for the main assault. The station fired again, but the fleet was ready. Council ships absorbed and deflected the energy attacks while human vessels launched clouds of chaff and countermeasures to confuse the station's targeting. "Main gun crews, ready," Walker ordered. "Remember your training. Time your shots with the shield fluctuations." The hybrid warships opened fire. Massive railguns, built with Council metals and powered by human principles, launched special shells designed by West's team. The rounds carried both kinetic impact and energy-disrupting payloads. The station's shields flickered under the assault. The swarm responded by launching thousands of fighter craft. "Here they come," Thompson warned. "They're using their new armor configurations." The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council ships used their energy weapons to create gaps in the swarm's defenses. Human vessels followed up with conventional weapons, hammering the enemy's physical armor. The hybrid ships delivered the killing blows with their combination of technologies. "Their shields are failing," Marcus called out. "Sector 7 is exposed." Walker keyed his command line. "All forces, concentrate fire. This is our chance." The combined fleet attacked as one. Energy beams stripped away the last shield layers. Kinetic rounds shattered armor plates. Hybrid weapons struck deep into the station's core. Explosions began chain reacting through the massive structure. The remaining swarm ships tried to escape, but found themselves caught between the 3 layers of the Alliance fleet. "Queen ship signatures are disappearing," West reported, watching her sensors. They're actually dying." The station's central core went critical. In a final burst of light, the massive structure tore itself apart. The few surviving swarm ships, cut off from their queen's control, drifted powerless in space. "All commands report," Walker ordered. "Status." One by one, the reports came in. The swarm was defeated. Their queens were destroyed. Their superweapon was gone. The threat that had nearly overwhelmed the galaxy was finished. In the aftermath, as recovery ships moved in to secure the debris field, the Council leader's image appeared on the main screen. "Captain Walker," the ancient being said, "humanity has proven itself beyond any doubt. Your weapons, which we once mocked, saved us all. But more importantly, you taught us that true advancement comes not from abandoning the past, but from building upon it." The Council leader raised a hand in salute. "The Council hereby appoints you as Supreme Commander of our combined forces. Your world's dedication to maintaining its primitive weapons, even in the face of our ridicule, has preserved galactic civilization." Walker looked around the command center at the humans and aliens working side by side. Old and new technology working together. The best of both worlds. "Thank you," he replied. "But the real victory belongs to everyone who was willing to learn from each other. Now shall we begin rebuilding?" The galaxy would never again laugh at human weapons. But more importantly, it had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the old ways and the new ways were both right. The trick was knowing how to use them together.